Okay, you should be able to hear me now. Let me know if y'all can hear me now. Okay, yeah, I hear myself now. I wasn't hearing myself over the stream. Okay. For some reason, my audio keeps switching. So every time I switch the audio, it sounds funny. But like I said, well, it's funny because the first thing I said was let me unmute myself so I'm not muted, and then y'all still weren't able to hear me. So that's always a funny way to start. Um, but like I said, this iteration for this week, what we're gonna try to do is I've had a lot of friends of mine reach out, basically stating that they don't know where to begin, how to start the process, where do they go to get their records and stuff like that. So we're gonna try to look into that and start elaborating on that stuff for people to understand like what the process is and how to start it. But then also, if you have any other questions pertaining to anything else, don't hesitate to put them out there. As always, just put them out there. Any questions you have, so we can try to get to them. It'll be depending on how many questions we get, we'll go into it. But the whole basis of this week's iteration will be, hey, let's figure out how to get our DD-214 if we've lost it or it got trashed or the dog chewed it or whatever the case may be, or how do we get our medical and health records? How do we get our military personnel file, like stuff like that. That's what we're going to try to go into, because I've noticed that a lot of the big issues that people are having is that some people don't formulate the documentation correctly, and that's what draws back a lot of veterans. Having the process the right way, like I was stating, because we did a little pop-up one on Thursday, I believe it was Thursday, and it was just basically explaining like, hey, you have to create a disability claim, or you have to file disability claims where it's as if you're sending it to a random person, and a random person has no idea who you are. They don't know what issues you've gone through, and they need to be able to pick up those documents, that evidence, that paperwork, and be able to say, hey, okay, this person is dealing with this, or they're dealing with that, or they've seen this, or whatever the case may be. Those are the things that people need to have in the thought process when it comes to beginning to file for disability as a veteran. You have to make sure that you're doing it the correct way, with the right information, with the right documentation, with the right um, evidence to basically back your claim and assist you in obtaining your disability claim. Because that's the underlying problem that we keep on seeing with people, is that they don't know where to start, or they do start but then they don't start correctly. And then the biggest issue also is like, hey, look, you may get denied, you might get approved, whichever the one, service connected or not service connected. If you have to appeal, that furthers the process and delays the process and makes the process even longer than what it has to be, unless you file it correctly the first time and you have everything correctly placed and everything is numerated, everything is detailed, all that information is there. It makes it a lot easier for you to get a service connected approval, and then from there it's going through the compensation and pension exam. Mind you, the compensation and pension exam, the CMP exam, is going to happen regardless of the fact. Even if you are not service connected, you are still going to go through a CMP exam. The way the VA does it is basically like, hey, if we're going to evaluate you and give you a rating on this, we're going to evaluate you before we confirm that it is service connected, so that it's not a double step process. Because it's no point in trying to find out if you're service connected or not, find out yes or no, and then do a CMP exam on top of it. No, they want to make sure that they see what the issues are, so that way the process is smoother. So that way when you're getting evaluated, okay, you then the VA rater actually looks at the documentation, because they're going to go off of what the examiner, the CMP examiner, goes off of, see what you have, see what you provided, see your limitations, see if you're wincing or if you're hurting, or are you making facial expressions. Those things are the ones that basically make changes and allow you to be evaluated in a better manner. But then also, that's also checking in on the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 38, Chapter 1, Part 4, which is the schedule of ratings, which will give you that distinction and the ability to know, oh, okay, this is the percentage I may get, this is the percentage I may not get. So that way you are ahead of the game and you are prepared ahead of time to see where you may land at and where your hindrance may be. Because the thing is this process takes time. Interesting question. Um, but the process is basically twofold. If you do it correctly the first time going through, you don't have to worry about an appeal process. An appeal process can take about 6 months, or it could take up to a year, depending on how backed up the VA becomes and how much stuff they still are dealing with. It becomes an issue. You got to remember the VA goes through hiring and then they go through firing or people just quitting and leaving because of the workload. Some people are doing a lot of extra work, and you got to remember there's 19 million veterans right now that are alive, serve like all over the country, all over the world. There's 19 million veterans. Out of these 19 million veterans, out of about 6 million of them are actually using the VA and filing disability claims. So if we were to have these other 13 million to go ahead and actually make these claims, you have to keep in mind that that would put a bigger strain on the service, on the Veteran Affairs Administration. The VA would be overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed now, and we don't even have all of our veterans actually doing claims or filing for claims. The PACT Act shows how much we were hurting when it comes to people filing disability claims and how many people did not have the information, were not being taken care of, and also the amount of people that we didn't have available to actually do all the work for all those veterans. So that was just an increase, and we still have more than half that still haven't filed a disability claim. So keep that in mind, that it's important to file a correct disability claim when it comes to, hey, this is what you want to do. This is what you need to get after. If I do this right the first time, I'm service connected and I get my rating and I don't have to worry about appeal process or anything like that, you will get that information correctly. You will get your rating done. So that first time around, when you receive that benefits letter, it'll tell you the percentage. It'll tell you what's service connected and not. If everything comes out service connected, you don't have to worry about appealing. Now from there, it's, hey, is my documentation correct enough that I have the correct percentage on there? Then it becomes a, do I need to file for an increase, or do I believe it was misdone, like misplaced or misrated, stuff like that? Then that's a whole different story. But the main thing is we got to make sure that it's service connected, because from there, at least you know the VA acknowledges that you are dealing with these issues. If you are dealing with these issues, they know you're dealing with these issues, and then from there, you proceed and you begin to do the legwork, basically. Because then from there, once you're already service connected, you don't have to worry about that fight of, is it service connected or not? If they already acknowledge that, then from there it's okay. I can increase it, or how do I increase it, or what shows that I can increase it? And it's a different fight instead of, hey, still trying to prove that you are dealing with this issue. So we're gonna go to. This is basically, this is the start for most veterans. I had a question on the last live of people trying to explain this and the statement. Basically, it's there for those reasons. You have the nationalarchives.gov, and it goes to requesting military service records. So one of the questions I had on the last live that somebody left it as a comment, because like I said, if you like the information, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions or anything that you need referring to, or anything you want acknowledged, or a question that you may have, make sure to leave them in the comments so that way I know and I can go into the next week trying to make sure I can answer those questions, because I like doing it on live because it's a lot easier. But then with time, we'll start making videos to answer specific questions so that way it's easier. So this part of the video will probably be highlighted and snipped off so that people understand. So this is the National Archives .gov site. So you can just type in www.archives.gov and it'll take you to this, and it'll have veteran service records on the top, the second tab on the right. So this is the tab right here. So what you're going to do is once you click on that, it'll bring you to this page where it basically highlights request military service records. Recent military service and medical records are not online. However, most veterans and their next of kin can obtain free copies of their DD-214 report of separation and the following military service records any of the ways listed below. So basically, it tells you what if I'm not the veteran next of kin? Can I still access it? It gives you all the information. So it has like the frequently asked questions. You have that there, and you can click on that. But basically, what you're gonna do is like you can start an online request form, and it gives you the different information and the different visualization of what it is that you can actually request. So you can request a DD-214 separation document, which is an important document when it comes to trying to get a federal job, which I just made a short off of. Um, Federal employment and stuff like that, they want to show that you have a DD-214 because that is your document that provides information stating you served in the military, how long you served in the military, and if you got an honorable, dishonorable, other than honorable discharge or bad conduct, whichever the case may be, which also you can realize that you can also try to upgrade your discharge if it was other than honorable to try to put it to honorable in certain circumstances in certain cases. Then you have the official military personnel file, the OMPF. So this usually has information. Some information may be beneficial to get from there, but this is something that, hey, if you're going to start going through your process of disability, get all the documentation you can get. Anything you can find, anything that's in your record, anything that is part of your military service, if you've been out for a while, haven't had it, or if you're in and you're about to get out, this is stuff that you want to make sure you have, because sometimes certain information and certain documents can help provide evidence for your disability claim. In your personnel records, if it was a time where it was just like, hey, you had when it comes to like a PTSD claim, you can provide a document if there's a document showing that this happened on this, or it was a record of an incident that happened. That's something that you can provide also as evidence to show like, hey, this was the time I went through this process, or this happened, and this is what I have PTSD for. This is what causes my anxiety, my depression, all that stuff, and it's in your records. That's evidence you can use, and you can upload that as part of the evidence. Also, replacement medals. This is basically if you need to get any medals replaced or awards, stuff like that. You can go ahead and do that. It's basically all here for you. And this is the most important one, which is the medical and health records. So if you click on this, it'll basically give you all the stuff, and it tells you where you are going to go to get the information. So it's not every branch has it differently. So people need to understand that you're not going to try to get the documentation like a all-encompassing one. They don't have it as, hey, you're going to get this file from this certain location. You have to require it and ask for a certain place or a certain department or your branch in order to get the information. So when it comes to medical and health records, the official military personnel files held at the national records are administrative records containing information about the subject's military service history. Many OMPFs contain both personnel and former active duty health records, but the service branches discontinued retiring the health record portion to the NPRC in the 1990s. All of the military services retired the individual health record along with the personnel record to the NPRC upon the service member's separation from the service. The Army and the Air Force retired itself, so it just basically gives you a breakdown of when it got retired and when they removed some of these items. So in order to request that, you have these different ones. So each one of these is a link depending on what branch of service you served in. So Army here, basically, it says the same thing. Most of them do, but then you can see that honor after is the biggest thing. So this is basically if you have service records from this time to this time. So for the Army, discharged, retired, or separated from any component, and it has it as any component, but dates from October 16th, 1992 to December 31st of 2013, this is where it's located. On or after the beginning of 2014, they have them here at this processing thing. Same thing happens for Navy. Same thing happens for Air Force. And then they have it also discharged, retired, reserves, or National Guard for Air Force. So I guess they have it in two different locations for the Air Force. Marine Corps, same thing. Coast Guard, same thing. So they have all this stuff, and then you would just Army. So it was after that. So you would get to the processing center. So this is who you would have to contact. So you can call them directly for the Army, gives you the information. Human Resources Command, Record Processing Center. Same thing for the Air Force. And this one, it's interesting because it has it different. I was reading on Reddit, a lot of people who went through their med board says fight for retirement. Is retirement worth it over severance? The big difference is TRICARE for retirement, but there's Champier. So discerning. So let me highlight that. So this is the statement. Hold on, did it not show up? Why is it not showing? Okay, so that's the question is I was reading, or the statement was I was reading on Reddit a lot of people who went through it, through the med board process, saying fight for retirement. Is retirement worth it over severance? So the answer I have for that, discerning, is that when it comes to you being retired, you're getting your retirement check, and then you're also getting a VA check. If you are getting a severance check, the thing is that most people don't realize is like, yeah, you are getting this upfront money when it comes to a severance check. So you may get that 30,000, 40,000, whatever the case may be. Now, you're still going to get your disability checks. But the problem is that you will not receive them till you pay back that severance pay. So let's say you get paid that $40,000 of severance pay, or whatever the amount may be. You end up 100% permanent in total. You will not receive that 100% permanent in total till basically it deducts it from what you got in severance pay. So severance pay is like basically it's like giving you an advance, basically. So you got that advance of $40,000, and they basically say, well, you got this advance from your disability check. So now you have to pay up until you complete that $40,000, which is going to take you, if you're going through it and depending on your rate, if you get 100%, that's like about 3,000. That's about 10 months of you not receiving, or more than 10 months, because it's like 3,700, 3,800. If you're just 100% P&T, you're receiving that pay, but it's being offset by the amount that they gave you in severance pay. See what I'm saying? So that's where people want to say fight for retirement, because then you get the retirement pay, and that if you get that severance check and you get disability, for some reason they're taking it away. And that's why they're the VFW and the American Legion are both working to introduce, it's called the Major Richard Starr Act, through Congress, to add it to the National Defense Authorization Act, or basically our national budget, defense budget. They're trying to add that on there to include it so that that gets removed. So that basically if a service member gets med boarded and they get a severance pay, they don't have to pay back in disability form, which is something that a lot of people don't know. So if you receive that severance pay and you get disability, that is going to be offset. So you will not be receiving that disability pay till all the amount that you basically got paid up front is recouped. I guess is the easiest way of saying is recouped, because you don't see that money. But sometimes you can talk to the VA and they can make it that you are doing that. I won't get a retirement paycheck since retirement through the member and lessons for just medical retirement. But still, medical retirement is still you still get a check, I believe. But at the same time, since you got medically retired, so basically that's what that Major Richard Starr Act is for, is that they are trying to highlight it and make sure, like, hey, you are not, like, the way they try to make it seem is like you're double dipping, is what they're trying to basically put it as, when you're not double dipping. Because basically, if you're getting medically retired or med boarded, that's not because of you wanting to get out. That's basically the military saying, like, look, this person cannot continue to serve. Also, you don't get a check with the medical retirement. You just get pushed out. But you still get, don't you get the TRICARE if you get medically retired? The medical retirement still gives you some of those benefits of retirement, but just not the pension pay. But then at the same time, it's just like you're going to get that severance pay, but then your disability is not going to be counted towards it. So since you're not getting that pension pay, you still, I believe, are able to get TRICARE for life. Correct me if I'm wrong though. You don't get that check, but then you still have that tied into it. So you still get the acknowledgement of that, but then you're getting that severance pay. That severance pay goes a long way up front. If somebody's giving you $40,000 in a pay, it seems great, but then at the same time, you get that 40,000, you need to stretch that 40,000 to match up your disability pay. Because that's the thing with some people when it comes to being med boarded, is like if you get more med boarded for a certain thing, you get that certain percentage from the DOD one and then the VA. If it's not at 100%, imagine if you're only getting $300 or $400, $500, $600 a month from the VA, but you got to pay back $40,000. So I have less than 20 years of service. There's no, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So that's why they're trying to remove that, because it's not of your choosing. That's why that Major Richard Starr Act that's what they're trying to push for, so that issues like that don't happen. Because the thing is you're getting a severance pay not because of your choosing. You didn't choose to be medically retired. The military chose that because that's what they saw. It was just like, hey, look, he wants to continue serving, but he can't right now. So we're going to retire him from the military. We're going to give you this severance check to basically say, hey, this is what you should have been getting, or you should get for your time that was left, or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you cannot connect your disability after the fact until that same amount that you were given up front as like in advance is basically recouped. So that's why people say to go through a military retirement instead of just to go to retirement instead of getting med boarded, because of the fact that you will receive a pension and then you will receive your disability, but there's no severance pay attached to it, where if, let's say, you were expecting to keep making that money of that disability pay, you're not going to be making that money till you pay back the other amount. So that's why a lot of people say, hey, go medically retired because of that. I'm in for a plan for so DOD can match it. So I get medical retirement with TRICARE, but if I get less than 30 DOD, that separation, fighting, and appealing takes longer. So Dash, what you want to do is try to get more percentage from the VA. You're getting med boarded for that. You gotta remember, when it comes to the med board process, they're med boarding you for a specific reason. That does not take into account all the other stuff you have that you're dealing with. So you may get med boarded because of your feet, but you can still have ankle, hip, shoulder, back, migraines, PTSD, depression, anxiety, sleep apnea, GERD, irritable bowel syndrome. Like all this stuff can be interconnected, and that pushes your rating higher for the VA. If you have 20 years of service and med board, you get medical retirement regardless of DOD rating, since you have 20 years of service. Yes, but the thing is the difference is, I think when you have the 20 years, you start receiving that pension. You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing, Dash. You are getting med boarded for whatever reason you're getting med boarded. One thing. The VA is going to match basically that same thing, because it's like, oh, he got med boarded for that. We're going to give him a certain percentage. But you got to remember, the Code of Federal Regulations dictates, the Code of Federal Regulations dictates what it is percentage you're getting for plantar fasciitis. So let me see. Hold on. No, not that. Let's go to the CFR. So plantar. Why did that? No. So let me see if I can find it here. Degenerative arthritis. Hold on, I gotta spell that shit out. FASCITI. It won't. I don't know how to spell that damn word. But basically, here it'll give you that breakdown of what it is you can get for it. So it's a foot injury. Fasciitis. 2ITIS. Okay, there we go. Appreciate that. It just still takes me to this. So it's in this section. So you would have to go to the acute, subacute, chronic disease, the musculoskeletal system, and you check there. And there it's going to tell you what percentage you can get. I wish I could like search for it and it'll send me right to it. Upper extremity, no. The rest, elbow and forearm, shoulder and arm. Upper extremities, no. Where is this? It's in here somewhere. But basically what I'm trying to say is that basically you are going to receive that percentage. You're getting med boarded. You're getting med boarded. That's there. Yes, and that's the thing. So that's what I'm saying. So you're getting med boarded for one specific reason. That's your med board. With the VA, you are claiming everything else. So they're going to tie that claim into it because it's like you're getting med boarded for it. Clearly, it was done by the military. So that's going to be service connected. And they're going to give you whatever it is. Plantar fasciitis, I think you can get, I think is like the 30% is the maximum for how bad it is. And basically, if you're getting med boarded for it, you're basically going to get the highest percentage on there. Most likely. Don't take it as is, but chances are that's what's going to happen. The issue being is that you still have other claims. So basically, you might get that 30% from the DOD and you get the 30% from the VA. But then, like you said, you're claiming ankles, you're claiming your back, you're claiming your hip, your neck, all that stuff. That's going to add to your percentage. So that's going to add and give you a higher thing. So, but like I said, it depends. If you're getting that severance check, what you can do is try to make that money last as long as you can, because you're going to get that money, but then the VA is still going to recoup money and you're not going to get that money on top of it. So let's say you get that 40,000 and your disability is at like 100%, you're not going to be getting that 3,700 a month on top of it. You see what I'm saying? So that's where a lot of veterans don't understand that and don't realize that. It's just like, oh, I got the severance check and I'm gonna get disability. And then they go out and they blow the severance check on whatever it is that they want to blow it on, and then realize like, oh shit, I'm not getting any other pay right now because this has to be paid back. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand and it doesn't get explained too well. And a lot of people fall into problems like that because it's like, yeah, you get 40,000 off the bat, but 40,000 is going to take like about a year's worth of disability checks to pay. Now, if you were just expecting that pay to come from the VA disability, you're losing out on a lot of money because of that. Because you're going to be out of money for like almost a whole year. Yes, it is. And that's why they're trying to go through the process of changing that with the Major Richard Starr Act trying to be implemented in there. That's what they're trying to do to alleviate, because the thing is the reasoning is basically it's not through the veteran's choice or the service member's choice of getting out. It's not like they willfully got out. This is the military and the army deciding, you know what? You can no longer serve because of this issue. So basically, it's not at fault of the veteran or the service member to get med boarded. So that's why they're trying to introduce that legislation in. I have to double check on it because I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything more on it, so I have to double check and just see if there's been any process with that. Let me see. See where it's at. Long provides combat disabled uniform service returns with fuel. That's what it's called. So this was introduced. This bill was introduced by Republican Bilirakis, Gus Bilirakis of Florida, representative from Florida. It was introduced in March of 2023 through the House Armed Services, the Veteran Affairs. So basically, the Veteran Affairs Committee through the House. The latest action that happened was July 18th of 2023, placed on the union calendar. I haven't seen. So basically, it's been introduced and nothing has come from it. So that's the thing. It hasn't moved, and basically it's a bill that was introduced, but that's the stuff that is just like, that's where us as veterans need to be more vocal and need to be more involved in politics and stuff like that, because they have the House Representatives Committee, they have the Senate Veterans Committee, and these are the people that are fighting for us or are supposed to fight for us and introduce stuff like that. This is something that got introduced last year, and there has been no motion. It hasn't gone. It got introduced, hasn't been voted on, hasn't passed the House, hasn't passed the Senate, hasn't gone to the president, and it hasn't become law. So it got introduced, but it hasn't moved from there. But basically, that bill is just basically that act is just them trying to be like, hey, look, we don't believe veterans should be, I guess, not receiving their VA disability because they got med boarded out of the military. So that's one of the things there. But that's something you got to look at. You got to remember that. It's like, yeah, you might get that. You might not do the 20 years. You might get your severance pay. But keep that in mind and try to file everything you can towards the VA, because then it'll help offset that amount that you're going to get paid in severance that much faster. So you'll be able to incorporate both those things. So basically, you'll get your disability pay after you've paid off the severance. So depending on how big the severance is, depending how long it may take, depending on also what your VA disability rating ends up as. So if your disability rating is 100% and it's just you as a veteran, it's like about 3,700. It should go up to almost like 3,900 a month for this upcoming year, depending on the increase, which is I'm still waiting on that. Why is my frame rates dropping? What is going on here? I'm not sure, but it says my frames are dropping. I'm not sure where it's dropping to. So that's the thing that it's, trying to make sure you understand that. It's like you're gonna have that happen, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that you have that ability there. Yeah, so that happens every year. Every year the pay goes up. No matter what, the pay goes up. It's all depending on COLA though. So every year our disability pay goes up, but it depends on COLA. So if COLA is like right now, what people are saying, it's at like, I think it's like at 2.6%, 2.7%. They haven't done it because they finalize it by next month. We should have the numbers. Or the numbers should be coming out within the next 2 weeks or something like that. And then they'll make it official, like, hey, this is what it's going to increase that way. Yeah, so if it's 37 for 100%, it'll probably go up maybe 2.6 or 2.7% is what they're saying is going to go up. So that'll be the increase across all ratings that it goes up by. So then it's just adding 2.6% to that, which isn't much. And especially with everything going up in pay, every inflation and all that stuff, it doesn't really make sense that it's only going up 2.6 when everything else has gone up a lot more. So the cost of living has gone up more, but it's only 2.6% according to the to the VA and that adjustment. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. But that goes up. So basically, depending on, like I said, if you're getting like $40,000 in severance pay, that's what's being deducted from you each month. But then you can also talk to the VA, and the VA has it that you can make it like it's kind of like a payment plan, kind of. But I'm not too sure. You'd have to speak on the VA because they can make it that, hey, you are paying this certain percentage every month towards that severance pay so that you can still receive your VA pay, but you're not going to get the full 3,700. You may get maybe 3,300 a month or something because you're making payments of $400 per month and stuff like that. So that's where it's something you have to contact the VA to make sure you do that, because that's where it changes a lot, and that's where a lot of information is there. So it makes it kind of difficult to do that. So yeah, it's not that big of an increase. $98 is not a huge increase that you're receiving. But that's what's going to be changing over the top of that. So that's why it's just like, yeah, it's not that big of an increase. It's really not, for how everything is going up and stuff like that. But then most of the other benefits also go up also. So it's not like it's just this that goes up. So your compensation goes up, but then housing goes up also. The BAH rates go up. Uh, the the DEA benefits, like the Chapter 35 for like your family members to go to school and stuff like that and receive that stipend, that goes up. But the thing is it's more of your pay will go up $100, $98. Nothing crazy, but that's what it is. So it's just like, is that really a big difference to help for certain veterans with the changes that have happened? No, because we had that big increase 2 years ago, which I think was like 8 point something, and then it dropped back down to 3 point something, and now it's even lower. But that's something, to keep in mind when it comes to getting military retired or med boarded when you get that severance pay. So that's something you got to acknowledge and something you got to pay attention to in order to take care of that. Otherwise, it doesn't really, assist you in that manner. So just with this again, personnel records, that's how people start off, getting all that documentation, getting it all. People need to remember that if they're getting out or in the process of getting out, they have to ensure that they are getting a copy of their military service record. You have to get a copy of your military service record in order to take care of those things. If you don't have that, that's a problem. But in your case, Dash, you want to make sure that you are filing for everything and anything you have towards the VA. So like you said, ankles, back, hip, and neck, cool. But if you've gone to behavioral health, if you deal with anxiety, you deal with depression, file that. If you, with your back issues, make sure you're separating upper and lower. With the rising cost of living, some veterans take their 100% and go somewhere like Vietnam. Oh, I know, Dash. I got a friend that does that. They just live. You can live. People, like, what people don't realize is that if you are a veteran, if you're not with family or something like that, you can live anywhere you want to, as long as cost of living is affordable for you and stuff like that. But you can live in a lesser developed country, because I'm not going to call it a third world country, a lesser developed country, which doesn't have as strong of an economy, or the exchange rate for $1 is very high. You can go to one of these countries and you can live there comfortably. If you go to Vietnam or Thailand, 2,500 a month for all expenses, I think that's a lot more than that's still a lot more than what it has. And then you got to think about it. If that's the case, you're still making another grand on top of that. Another like what, $1,200, $1,300 that you just get as extra cash. So it's not a bad idea to go and receive your pay and all that stuff and go somewhere else and live. It's not something that's like out of the question. People just don't resort to thinking that. The only thing I believe is like you would still have to come back, do your VA checkup, like your yearly checkup. You would have to fly back into that because most of these locations don't have those resources overseas. So when it comes to like dealing with the VA, you don't really have those resources overseas. So like with a lot of veterans I know that are in Germany, there's no VA resources out there. So most of the time is going through the paperwork to basically get care on that economy of that government or that country, and then kind of like billing it to the US like, hey, this is what it is. So it's a process you would have to deal with because it's not like that. But if you're living off $2,500, most people cannot say they live off of $2,500 in the States per month. It's kind of hard to do that in certain cases. You got bills, phone bill, all that stuff. But in other places where the cost of living is nowhere near as high, that's an advantage that you have, and that's something you can take advantage of because you're not paying for that. You're not paying for the extra stuff you pay for here in the States. So that's why a lot of people do that. And it's just people doing the research and looking into where they can move to or where they can live at and stuff like that, that the cost of living is lower. And there's tons of places that give you that availability. There's tons of places that you can go ahead and move to and live at a lower rate where you don't pay as much expenses. You can probably purchase the home and you're paying it off for whatever amount. It's way cheaper than a mortgage here. You have food that's probably cheaper and stuff like that. 25 minutes to have the lifestyle they're living. Here you definitely do it for less. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm from New York City. I know. That's why it's just like you get that pay, but that pay doesn't go as far as it goes somewhere else. Like 2,500 is to have that lifestyle over there. But you still get to do whatever you want because you still get an extra $1,300. It's tax free. You get it. You got to remember, you were paying $3,000 for a 3-bedroom apartment. That was just rent. And the money you were earning to pay that shit wasn't tax free. You were still being taxed on that. So that's the other thing that people don't realize. It's $3,700 tax free. Doesn't get thrown into taxes. You don't have to pay no federal taxes or state taxes on it. That's compensation that you get tax free. Whereas compared to sometimes a retirement pay, some states do tax you on your retirement pay, and then there's other states that they do not charge you for that. So those are the things that people don't realize when it comes to taking care of the stuff they need to. Is just like, yeah, it's important, and it's life changing. I would say it's life changing in order to obtain these things. So if you are able to obtain the fact like, hey, you are doing this, you are doing that. If you get 100%, it's very life changing because you have income that's tax free for the rest of your life being paid to you. And what you do with it depends. Some people decide to go and work in the military. Like, look, like you being med boarded, you can still file and try to apply for GS jobs or government jobs, and you will still get paid your VA, and you will still get paid through the GS job. And then depending on it, you can actually buy back your time from the military. So basically, if you served 10 years active duty or 10 years, you can buy that time back and count it towards your military retirement in the federal system. So now you got 10 years already done. So within another 10 years, you'll be able to retire. Don't think that. Because the thing is have you gone, the question is have you gone to mental health? Have you gone to behavioral health? Do you see a psychiatrist? Do you see a therapist? Do you see a counselor? Do you see any of that? The military knows and the VA knows that going into the military, you are going to deal with mental health issues. There's no there's no way you're not dealing with some type of anxiety. It may not be overwhelming. You deal with some sort of depression. You might have you might have developed OCD. You might have developed so many different things, but you yourself don't realize it because you haven't gotten seen or you haven't talked to anybody about these issues. So that's something that you got to remember. It's just like, it's not that they can't say that your mental health can't be connected. If you're still in service and you're going through the process, it can be connected. You just have to make sure to file for it. The thing is that they're going to ask you questions, and that leads into this. One second. That leads into the mental health stuff. What is that? So these are the different mental health disorders that you can go through. The current rate at 100% P&T is 37.37, Joe Escalante. And Discerning Dash calculator, it should go up to like 38.35. So it's almost like a $98 increase for next year if it stays at a 2.6 rate. If it goes up more than that, it'll be slightly much more, but it's not going to go up more because that's what they're kind of calculating it as. I was just rated at 100% P&T, a blessing and a curse. Continue. What? Oh, just Fred. What do you mean a blessing and a? Why a curse? That's the one thing I wanna see. I wanna know why is it a curse? Because a blessing it definitely is. So basically, and you just got rated. So congratulations on just being rated. I've been 100% P&T now for a year and a half now. I got it in July of last year. I was rated and put to 100% P&T. I will hit 2 years out of the service contractually in November. But why is it a curse? That's what I want to know. Why is it a curse? Dealing with getting to 100% P&T, that I will consider a curse. That I will say is a heartache and a bunch of stuff that it's hard, but it just goes with what it is. But Dash, look, these are all the different things you can claim. All the different things that keep cutting out. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is. I wonder why I'm cutting out. A curse that I really am as bad as I feel. Oh, Fred, yeah, that is one thing that people need to understand. I see now when you state it that way, yes, it is a curse. Because would I be happy being able to play basketball, run around, play with my kids as much as I would be able to? Yes, I would rather do that than the money, because then I would still be able to work with no issue and stuff like that. So now that y'all put it in that light, yes, I do understand being a curse. The thing is also you got to remember, while you still have these issues, you are still able to go get help and seen for these things for the rest of your life. So it is a curse, but at the same time, it's not like you have to deal with these issues on your own. These are things that you are going to be able to take care of without having to worry about cost. Because that's where a lot of people run into that problem. Like with this whole PACT Act thing, a lot of veterans deal with a lot of this stuff, like all the toxic exposure and all that stuff. Stuff is being developed and being caused by that time. But a lot of those Vietnam veterans didn't get that help or weren't able to, or they were paying out of pocket for it. Now, at least we can say, hey, look, my back is getting worse. I could go to a chiropractor. I can go get, sometimes you can even get acupuncture, stuff like that. Depending on what your issue is, go to your VA, get a referral, Try to find it if you have it in community, because most of the time they have someone in your community that's VA operated, so you can go in your community and you don't have to do these long travels. And with stuff like that, so it's not. The thing is discerning dash. The thing is like you have people that are jealous because of the fact that they don't know the process. And that's what I've noticed with a lot of it. A lot of it is like a lot of people get jealous of the fact that it's just like, oh, you're 100%. Like I've been told, you're 100% PNT. You don't look it. I'm like, do you know I'm like medicated right now to sit and talk to y'all? like I have to take medication to make sure to be able to sit this long and be able to talk to y'all. That's the only way I do these. And then sometimes I've had streams where I stand up where medication doesn't help. And I'll do it just a stand up stream, just basically because it's just like, you know what? My back can't tolerate sitting this long. I've gone through a couple of chairs already, just trying to find better chairs that are support me. I'm looking into one that gives massages now just to try to help ease the muscles. But stuff like that, people just don't understand. And the jealousy comes from not understanding the process and not understanding what they have to do to get there. Because I hear that, and look, the veteran community can be one of the most toxic people to deal with, which is insane. It's one of the most toxic groups I've dealt with just when it comes to trying to give people information, or just people, like you said, being jealous of the fact that they're not getting what I'm getting. I was just like, I'm sorry I went to sick call. I'm sorry when I got hurt, I went and got seen. I'm sorry I asked for those MRIs. I'm sorry I asked for those x-rays. I'm sorry I am not 100% the person I used to be. That's on me, but that was me also looking out to take care of myself and not continue drinking the Kool-Aid. And that's where a lot of that jealousy comes from. I was just like, we deal with these issues and we claim them. A lot of people deal with these issues, but they don't want to talk about them. They don't want to go see a doctor. And then they complain about the fact that it's just like, oh, how come this person only did this amount of time? I did all these tours, this, and that. And I was just like, well, that person might not have done all those tours, but that person decided to go get seen. No, it should be no. Dash it shouldn't be. It doesn't have to change. It's just that people need to be better educated when it comes to making those statements. It doesn't have to change because this is a disability. We're not the person we used to be. You not being able to be on your feet, that's a disability. That's not compensation. Because then the thing is if you change it to compensation, people are gonna be like, oh, they're just giving veterans money. There's always gonna be somebody complaining. But the thing is these are disabilities. We are filing for these things because these are stuff that are disabling us. If we get to 100% PNT, is most of the time because a lot of the stuff is static. And what I mean by static is that when you have a claim that is static, it means that the VA acknowledges and recognizes that the issue you have is not going to get better. So when I forget, you have to, believe it's a C file you have to request. That I have to figure out how to request also. But that's what a lot of people don't acknowledge that. And a lot of people don't. You see what I'm saying? So somebody's always gonna complain. They're just like, oh, the VA, oh, so you're getting compensation. So the VA is just giving you money. So why are you getting this money? I was like, no, it's a disability. Because the thing is this is disabling me from being the normal person I was before the military. Before the military, I didn't deal with back spasms. I didn't have dislodged and bulging discs. I didn't have any of that. I got that through the military. I got through the hip pain. I deal with a tear in the labrum. I got ankle sprains. I got ankle injuries, knee injuries, shoulder injuries. All these injuries and all the stuff is because of me being in the military. So it's just like, that's why it like I said, and most of the time it comes from toxic veterans that are upset at the fact that, oh, you're getting this and I didn't get that. It was just like, then go get seen. Go get it documented. Go get it diagnosed. Go get evidence, get buddy statements, get letters showing that the issue you're dealing with is not allowing you to perform at the level that you should be performing at. Because the thing is, it's just like, hey, I could have became an Amazon driver, a UPS driver, a FedEx driver, but I can't be lifting all this heavy shit all the time without my back trying to give out. So if I can't do that, that's a job I can't do anymore, which I should be able to do because I can get my CDL license, but I can't be lifting up 50+ pound boxes and shit like that all the time, bending over, lifting up. That's a disabling issue. So that's why the military compensates you for that. If you went through a bunch of deployments and stuff like that, your back is not the same. Because if you deployed all that many times, you were in an IOTV with your plates on, or you were carrying a whole bunch of ammo, or you're carrying your gear, which is basically extra weight that's supposed to be on your back that your back is not supposed to have. And you were doing that consistently while deployed. File a claim. That's why it's just that you got to take it like, that's why it's like you have to take it with a grain of salt when it comes to statements that other veterans make when it comes towards somebody else. The thing is if those same people that had that energy to basically say, oh, you lost out, or you're getting paid when you shouldn't, I was just like, if you had that same energy and started asking, how can I get to that level, it would be a whole different thing. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It was just like, instead of, if those veterans were to take that same energy that they have to trying to bash and downgrade somebody else's time and service and took it to actually try to educate themselves and learn from those people that are getting those disabilities, they wouldn't be having them same statements. Because the thing is they're just bitter. I was just like, one person's servants is not better than anybody else's. You saw combat, didn't see combat, got 8 deployments or whatever. It don't matter. You still decided to serve this country, and that was it. That was the sacrifice you made. The sacrifices aren't the same, but everybody was willing to pay that price through their sacrifice. Just because you went and did one thing that another person didn't, that doesn't make their service less important or less as of honorable mention than yours. But at the same time, if that person went and got seen and you didn't, because you chose not to, because you wanted to be, that rock tough, hard ass that didn't have anything, or I'll muscle through it. Well, now you paying for it at the back end, because now you have all these issues that you're dealing with that now you have to try to prove to the military that it happened while in the military, because you never decided to do anything about it while you were actually in the military. So that's something that a lot of veterans need to get that mindset of, just like, hey, if you're bitter at the fact that somebody that I guess didn't serve as long and didn't get their 100%, or they got their 100% and you didn't, maybe you should start asking them the better questions, as instead of trying to downgrade them or like belittle them. Try asking them how they got there so that you can actually get there. Because that's what I've noticed. Is just like, a lot of the times, a lot of veterans don't have that information. They don't get taught any of this. Like, most of the time, that's why I do these. Is just like, a lot of people don't get educated on these things, and they don't get told what's going on, but they think that belittling them is going to be a major thing. You still going to be jealous, and you still going to be mad. What's up, Josh? I was like, you still going to be, you going to be salty because that other person got 100%, even though they didn't do all the shit you did. But at the same time, like I said, that person took care of themselves. They didn't drink the Kool-Aid fully. They didn't start drinking out the jug. They weren't doing all that. They did their time in the service, and they took care of themselves. Some people, on the other hand, did not take care of themselves. But that's why I said, like at the beginning, it's just basically go to the National Archives and get your documentation. That's why we have this. That's why I started this one off like that, because it's basically, hey, this is where you need to find your information and get all your stuff in there. Because at the same time, it's just like, if you're upset at another service member getting 100% because you feel your service was better, that's your own opinion. But at the same time, that person's still getting paid 100% and you still salty and bitter. So which one is it? Is it better to be bitter, or is it better to educate yourself, or maybe ask that veteran, just like, hey, how did you go about doing this? How did you end up at 100%? How did you get this? How did you file for this? Or how did you claim this? Or how did you service connect this? Those are the questions that a lot of those veterans should be asking, but they don't. They rather say, oh, well, okay. And no, and those people that didn't deploy be like, well, and the crazy thing is that a lot of the times is that people are just like, the only difference between a combat veteran and a non and just a regular veteran is you were getting extra pay during your time in combat. Besides that, the salaries are still the same. The benefits were still the same. Nothing changed except for your imminent danger pay and your hazardous duty pay. That's it. And what was that? Maybe an extra $500? Oh, and maybe you were getting tax-free money because you were overseas. Besides that, you were a sergeant, you were an E5, you were getting paid as an E5. So were they. That's the only difference. Besides that, if you ain't taking care of yourself to actually acknowledge this stuff and you ain't paying attention to these changes, these regulations and stuff like that, a lot of people ain't educating themselves, but they just want to downplay somebody else. It's like, no, go through the system. Ask these service members that are at those positions how they got there, why they got there. What did they file? How did they file that? It was just like, you know what? I deal with back injuries too. How did you go about filing for these back injuries? And then most of the time, those service members that have gone to 100% PNT have no issue telling people how to get to 100% PNT. Why? Because some of them went through a rough situation to get to 100% PNT. Some people get it first shot. I've helped a couple of people get 100% PNT off their first claims. Just had a buddy of mine, just got out. He moved to Florida, not getting paid for his retirement or anything like that. And it was just like, what? He got 100% because I told him, hey, make sure to claim this, make sure to claim that. Put this on there. You have your documentation. It's a lot easier when you're getting out of the service to get the stuff done. Once you're outside of the service and you've been out for a longer period of time, that's when it becomes a bit difficult because it's like you have to understand the fact that it's just like you have to show the military that what you are talking about happened during the military. And that's where it comes to getting these military service records. If you get this information, your health records and all that stuff is in there. When you're getting out of the military, you should be asking for your military records. That's something that they ask you to claim or they ask you to request before you get out. So you have all that information. The thing is that you have to remember the fact that also you are not going to have everything on there. Whenever you request your documentation and you still had appointments to go to after the fact, you have to make sure that you make another request for those documents. Because the thing is to do the BDD program, the benefits delivery by discharge, you're doing it between 180 days to 90 days of your ETS date. And when it comes to requesting your medical records, it usually takes like about a month, depending on your medical records. Because some of them take time, some of them are quick, some of them are not. You got to get that documentation. Because then that's the start of the paperwork. But if you've been out of service for quite some time, then from there you have to have the supporting evidence, whether it's buddy statements, an outside diagnosis, an outside nexus letter, outside imagery and stuff like that to show that. The other thing that a lot of people, I was talking to another person that reached out to me through Facebook, and they explained to me like, just like, hey man, I'm going through this issue because they want to say that what I claimed is incorrect and what I'm claiming is not caused by the military. So when he went through his records and stuff like that, what he ended up viewing was the fact that he was basically misdiagnosed while in service. So the misdiagnosis of his time in service for the issue he was having was not contributing to being service connected after the fact. So that's why I tell people you have to make sure that when you go see sick call for your active duty, if you know active duty personnel, let them know if you are going to see this and you're going to deal with this, you have to acknowledge the fact that sometimes the PA don't write the shit they're supposed to. They don't make those statements. They don't actually put in the proper documentation. And that goes a long way because that ends up hurting. It ends up hurting the service member because of the fact that it's just like, hey, you don't have that information there. It's not there. It's not visible. You're not seeing those issues, and that's something that you have to make sure that you pay attention to, I guess. Why is it just continuously losing? Trying to see because it says like my, I don't know why the internet looks like it's reading though. I told you, watch the video. A guy who has a service for veterans claims. In E9, it was difficult to get him 50%, and in E3, was able to get 80% of the game. Yeah, there's tons of examples of that. There's tons of examples from that because a lot of the things is like a lot of these people get to those, they get to those levels. So you will get higher up in ranking, but then you feel like you don't have to go to sick call. Which the crazy thing to me is that most of the time these seniors, you could just leave the fucking office. You could leave the office and actually go get fucking seen. And who's gonna stop you? Who's gonna tell you where you're going? That PFC went through so much shit because they kept on calling him a sick call ranger. They kept on calling him this and they kept on calling him that. They had to cancel this appointment to reschedule it again because we had a training or whatever the case. But that sergeant major or that first sergeant or that master sergeant, who the hell is telling them, hey, where you going? Let me see your appointment slip and stuff like that. So it's less of an excuse because the thing is you've been in the military longer. You've seen people get out of the military. So it wasn't, how can I put it? It wasn't concerning to you to try to acknowledge and make sure that you notice those people that got out before you. Because if you're at E9, if you made it a sergeant major, you're at least doing at least 20 something years. Or you're getting to at least 20. So you've seen plenty of people get out of the military. You've seen plenty of people retire from the military. So you mean to tell me that you were so high and mighty that you chose not to ask questions because you thought you were so high and mighty? Where that PFC was just like, you know what? Let me ask. Let me look into this. You know what? I'm fucking hurt. Sometimes these people weren't hurt and they were lying. Cool. But at the end of the day, they still had documentation for it. Because when they got hurt, they got that profile. And if they went again and they got that profile extended, that was another visit. That's more documentation. It's like I said, all these people get 900 pages. If you got all those pages of records of going, like if you've been in the service for 20 something years and you barely got any documents to show what you're doing, like, what is your justification for being mad at somebody that has gone to the doctor? Or what is your justification for the VA supposedly not getting it right? Because I'm not going to say I fully support the VA because the VA has fucked up and it does do wrong. But at the same time, a lot of the blame is put on the VA when it's not supposed to be. It was just like a lot of people be like, "Oh, the VA sucks." The VA. It was like, no, bro, you just expecting something that you just were wrong, plain and simple. Some people just expect, oh, if I file all this shit, I'm gonna get 100%. No, because you have to make sure you're looking at the Code of Federal Regulations. If you go over here and you check this out, you can just check whichever one you want to. You can just check whichever one of these you want. You can go to table of contents and you see the musculoskeletal system, diseases, digestive, respiratory, gynecological, endocrine, the skin, neurological, mental disorders. If you actually go and take the time to actually research the stuff and look at it, you then notice that it's just like, you know what? Even if I filed all these claims, with all the claims I got, the highest I could get is 70%. Or the highest I could get is 60%. Or the highest I could get is whatever percent. But most people don't think like that. Most people don't educate themselves in a manner that is just like, look, the Code of Federal Regulations highlights all this information. Highlights all of it. Hey, also, guys, make sure to please like and subscribe to the feed. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you can't like it, also just do that. How can I correct my code cheat combat code number 2? I have all my military and evidence recognizing my Gulf War service. So that would be a military corrections. Let me see. I'll look it up. So you have to go through the Board of Correction of Military Records. So then you would go through, if you go to www.defense.gov, click on request. If injustice exists in your military record, you may complete the submit a DD form 149. So let me put this in here. Angel, there you go. You click on that, and that'll take you to the link, and it'll basically show you. It basically is the same page I have up here, and then you go through the process and applying to your respective download and use the current form. So you got the form, and then it tells you where you go. So here, Army Review Boards Agency. If you're Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Department of Homeland Security, you go there. You just click on that. And then it'll tell you on behalf of the Secretary of Army, Army Board of Corrections, and all that stuff. And you can go through the process that way, and that's the easiest way to correct it. So that you have and make sure that your Gulf War service and deployment is in your record, which can assist you when it comes to combat-related service compensation, or the CRSC. And you can go about it that way. But like I said, I'm referring to the VA database. They're the one. Oh, you're referring to the VA. So you would have to. You would have to contact the VA directly for that, because I'm not sure what the offices is for that. Let me see. Let's see if it changes it. It still might be this, because I see this is what comes up. But to receive less on Board of Corrections. No. I'm not Marrero Angel. That one I'm not too sure. Because the thing is with that one, you would have to, I believe you would have to contact the VA. Because then the thing is if that's an error that the VA made, you would have to go through the VA to have them correct that. Because basically it's an error on their part that they coded it wrong. So you would have to contact the VA, and the VA, once you get the hotline, unfortunately that shit takes forever. But when you call the VA, press 0 so you can go to the operator. Don't wait the hour and a half or however long it is to actually speak to somebody through the automated system. Press the operator number, and then from there they would at least send you to the location that you have to speak to and stuff like that to get it done. That's it. That's your best bet, because that would be something that it's through the VA. Now the corrections, it's for like if it was during service and you wanted to change it like to DD 214 or something like that. But if it's on your rating stuff like that you have to contact the VA directly to speak to them, and they will refer you to their like corrections office, and then from there you'll get that information changed. Because otherwise it'll just stay like that, because of regular correction. Because it's basically, if it's in your decision letter, you have to go through them to change that. Because the thing is it shouldn't be too difficult of a process, because what they're most likely going to do is ask you like, hey, where's the proof and evidence? You just go and you'll submit it probably via email, or you'll fax it. And if you have issues, like, yeah, I know, fax, right? There is where the hell is it? The one I use. There is a app that allows you to fax documents from your phone, so you can scan them and upload them like that. The app is called Fax.plus. So So if you check that out, basically that will allow you to fax anything off of your phone. You get a certain amount free, and then I think to pay for it, it's maybe like 10 cents per page or something like. Basically, the same way they would charge you anywhere else, but you could do this from your phone, so you can upload the stuff and fax it and get it to them faster than via email. But I would suggest doing both at the same time just to be sure. But any corrections when it comes to something on your decision letter, you want to notify the VA, because the VA is going to have to do that directly instead of going through trying to do a military corrections record, which is for like your record and not entirely just that. So that's where you want to make sure you do that. Let's see. So just make sure that is ongoing, and when you're making those changes, because that's what you have to do to make sure you're getting those changes done. But yeah, that's the same thing. Like I was saying, when it comes to it, you got to make sure that you are ensuring that you are taking care of what you need to take care of. Whereas documentation is documentation. No matter how many years you served or how much time you did, documentation will always be documentation. It's just depending on you on as to how you go about it. That's literally it. Can't make any changes to that. Can't do anything um by that. That's what basically it goes through. That's something you have to acknowledge, and something you have to make sure you're ensuring that your documentation is straight. Just because somebody else's documentation wasn't at the same way. So that's something that people need to realize when that happens. Um, the information you provide is the information you provide. What just happened? Hold on, I think I just messed something up. I lost visualization on here, I think. But that's something that, hey, people just need to acknowledge, need to you are the one that takes care of yourself. The VA is not going to take care of it. The VA is not going to ensure you are doing everything you need to do. You have to make sure you are ensuring and getting the documentation and the stuff you need. Did I just lose connection or something? Like, I think I'm losing connection all over. Should be running well now, but I'm not too sure. Okay, so I'm gonna have to try to see something settings wise, because it's telling me that people are like is not receiving the stream properly. So for some reason, like my internet is not cooperating correctly. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'll try to make some quick changes. Probably just have to leave it for the next time, and we'll change it next time. But like I said, that's the stuff that people need to make sure and ensure that they're taking care of. This is what you need to maintain, and this is what you need to see, and you need to visualize. Your documentation is the most important thing. The Code of Federal Regulations assist you with that, and basically setting expectations for you is important. As Hold on, I'm gonna cancel this one on Facebook and close that out. What just happened? I'm trying to see because it's saying it's not receiving the stuff. I'm not getting the, and it's running poorly. So I'm trying to see. I don't know if my internet is crapping out or what the case may be. Okay, so on mobile it seems to be back and running. On my main one is like where I'm having issues when it comes to visibility. Because it's saying it's buffering, so I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that. But yeah, that's what it is. When it comes to doing that, requesting your records is the important thing. Get your records done, get your information done, get your visualization, get the stuff you need, and then from there that allows you to do that. I'm trying to see because it's not streaming well. Let me see if I just close it out. I don't think I'll be able to just close it out and restart it again. So I'm gonna see if I could do that. I doubt it'll let me do it, because if I stop the stream, it's not gonna. Let me see. Yeah, it won't let me stop it. But for some reason, my internet is going haywire, and it's not sending the information to you guys as good as it should. So I'm not entirely sure why that is. And I know people are going to be watching football and stuff like that, so I expect that to happen. But for some reason, my internet is nowhere near where it's supposed to be doing. And that just started happening, so everything is like buffering and I'm losing. Like my network is crapping out. 55 plus sitting at 90% combined static. I have a pending claim which will likely award me 100% PNT. I really want TDIU so I can get SMCS in my future appeals. How can I get TDUIU instead? So Angel, the thing is like you can get, if you can get 100% PNT, get 100% PNT, because you can still get the SMCS as 100% PNT. You want to get it through TDIU, you can do that. You have to, it's basically like an application process to that, because they're going to evaluate you through the SMC-S. So depending on what it is, you're still going to get evaluated, and they're going to see if you fit that criteria for that. So it's not just the automatic you will receive that instance. That's one thing you got to acknowledge and you got to keep in mind. It's not automatic. It's not an automatic thing that you're just going to get that evaluation and you're going to get the SMCS. So you're going to go through the process of claiming that. If you can get 100% PNT, it's better off, because the thing is there's no income level. You get Champ VA. You get the benefits for any family members, any dependents or spouse, the school, the Chapter 35 benefits. Those things go a longer way than TDIU, because with TDIU you cannot receive that. TDIU, you don't get those dependent benefits. You don't get those you don't get Champ VA, stuff like that. So if you can get to 100% PNT, I would suggest doing that instead of trying to get to the TDIU just to get to the SMC. Because the SMC, if you fall into that criteria, you can file for that. And then I would suggest talking to a VSO directly so that they can assist you through that process, because the CSMC process I'm not too well aware of. I still got to do research on that, but I know being TDIU, it's there, But if you can get to 100%, you can get that and you get all the benefits of 100% PNT. Being 55 plus, whatever state you're in, they probably have more benefits for you once you're 100% permanent in total. Some don't recognize the TDIU because you're not 100% permanent in total. So for some, it might be like property tax exemptions, or different exemptions at all, different benefits. And they usually just aim them towards 100% permanent in total veterans. They don't aim them towards TDIU. But like I said, that's depending on your state. So that's something you have to look into. But if you're going to file for that, definitely suggest going through a VSO to apply for the SMC. But your best bet is basically fight for that 100% PNT. Because you can get the 100% PNT and then you can still get the SMCS there. And then from there, you get that claim and you get the extra pay on top of it. SMCS, let me see what that one is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Because for S, that would mean it's an extra for the veteran alone is $41.83. But remember, you can also claim for K, which is like for ED or something. That is $128, like $130 something dollars on top, or anything because of maybe all the medication you're taking, all the stuff like that. That's something you can also claim on there to help with the pay on top of it. So that's something to keep in mind. You can go through the process, but the best process is it's always best. Um, it's always best to try to get to 100% PNT because that affords you more benefits. TDIU gets you paid at the 100% mark, but it doesn't give you all those extra benefits. So if you're still working and stuff like that, or you're still earning income, you can only make, I think the threshold is about like close to 15,000. It's below 15,000, but I think it's like 14,000 something, some specific number. But that's the most you can make per year of taxable income. If you're 100% PNT, there's no cap. You can work whatever job you want. You could do little side hustles or whatever and make that income, and it's not taxable. If you make more than that as TDIU, you run into that problem where it's just like you're able to employ yourself, but you're making more money than the threshold allows. So that's something you got to keep in mind when it comes to that. Let me just say. So, and it also says, Angel, that if you're gonna do it, you have to go through a higher level review, or it's called. Well, but that's also if you feel that you should have gotten it for it. So you can go through the higher level review. Veterans gonna. So the phone number that I see here, veterans can contact their nearest VA office. The phone number is 888-878-9350 to discuss their case. But like I said, best thing is call the VA, dial 0, get to the operator and ask them like, hey, I am trying to file for TDIU. I'm at 90% and I'm trying to file. I'm waiting on the thing. But the thing is they're most likely going to try to tell you to wait to see where that claim gets you, to see if it gets you to 100%. If you have these and you're over 55, because the over 55 is like a certain thing, like most of those are going to be static regardless because you're over 55. So that's the over 55 rule. The thing is you have to make sure that you are obtaining those things. Make sure to fight for that 100% PNT because it goes a longer way also. And especially when it comes to another thing is like dependents and spouses. Like if something happens to you and you pass, You got the DIC, which would happen at any rate, but at the same time, when you are permanent and total, it goes to like that property tax exemption and stuff like that can get passed on to the next person. Yeah, Dash, it sounds that simple, but sometimes it's not. But and this is also what I gotta say, Dash. Just because you're getting paid at the 90% does not mean you're at 90%. And that's the thing that gets a lot of veterans in trouble when it comes to navigating what their claim may get them or whatnot. If you are getting paid at the 90%, you can literally be from 85% to 94%. You are in that window, and that's why you are getting paid at the 90% mark, because you can be at 85% and you get paid at the 90, or you could be at 94% and get paid at the 90. So Angel, you got to make sure that wherever you have to specify exactly what percentage you're sitting at to know what that next claim can get you. Because the thing is you can be at 90 static. You got this one claim in, but you may be at like 85% and getting paid at 90. So what you thought was going to be that extra bump may not bump you over that 95% mark. So you got to keep that in mind when it comes to those that filing. And that's the same thing with you, Dash. You got to keep that in mind. You want to make sure, and I have my video, let's see if I could tag it here. 1 second. Let me get to this real quick, and I'll post a video of basically how to calculate VA math. So that right there is the video for how to calculate VA math, and that's something that you want to pay attention to when you're checking. So that'll basically tell you how to go and identify this is what I am actually sitting at, because that's the issue. A lot of people don't understand is just like, just because you're getting paid at that rate does not mean that that is what you are at. So the same thing with all of them. If you're at 20%, that means you can be from 15 to 24. If you're at 30%, that means from 25 to 34. 40% is 35 to 44, and so on and so forth. So basically when you're applying, though, that difference can make you, because the thing is you may think that filing that percentage claim is what's going to happen and what's going to push you over the top, and then you might get it approved, you get that back, and then you still don't hit that 95% mark, and then you'll be like, man, I thought this was going to do it. And that's where a lot of people fall into trouble, because they think it's just like, oh, if I put this percentage and this percentage, that'll do it. And then that's also here in the CFR when it comes to the calculating it. So I basically broke it down on how to do that. I was thinking since most of them are 10%, so 5 of those gets to. So let's see. If you at 90%, right? So let's just take it like that. So you get 5 of those, right? You get 5, you got 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. It will get you to 95. That's if you're at 90. So if you are exactly at 90, yes, 10% on 5 different claims does that. But the thing is if you've gotten all the way to 90 and you're trying to find an extra 10%, you're trying to find 5 different claims to get you to 100, that can get difficult. See what I'm saying? So you might be at 90 and you've been fighting for it and you're trying to get another 5-10%. That means you have to find 5 different claims that you haven't claimed throughout this process to add on top of it, which may mean getting documentation, getting diagnosis, getting a nexus letter. You see what I'm saying? So it can become a snowball effect as to trying to get that. So in cases like that, also, what I suggest to some people is look into increases. For some, you can just get increases of stuff that you already have service connected, and you can file for an increase. And that's the thing, because you're gonna go through the process and you're gonna file a thing, and it'll just be filing it as an increase. But then at the same time, um, you have to make sure that the increase you have to make sure that the increase you're applying for can actually be increased. That's the other thing, and that's where this Code of Federal Regulation goes in hand. So if you're filing for an increase, make sure that whatever you filed and they acknowledged, you'll find a diagnostic code, and then it'll be like, if it's like 9,000. No. Well, whichever code it is, basically, because I know the mental health ones are 9,000. See, there you go. So mental health 9,200 or whatever the case may be, all the way. If you're filing to increase it, make sure you have a diagnosis, sure you have your documentation, and you have proof showing that it's going on. I have a lot of high value claims like IBS, GERD, migraine, sleep apnea. So those muscular symptoms is what will put me to the 95%. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. That's what. But the thing is you got to remember, you got to make sure all of those are good ones, because you got the high value ones. IBS is like 30, GERD can be 30, migraines is 50, sleep apnea is 50. Those musculoskeletal conditions, when it comes to like your foot, back, stuff like that, those can be 10, some get 30, some get 40, some get 20, depending on what it is. But then also, it's when you're going through the process of what you're actually making statements of the issues you're dealing with. That's another thing that a lot of people don't pay mind to, because all this criteria is fit into it. So basically, you're going to go to that C&P exam. That C&P exam is going to ask you those certain questions about what it is. With irritable bowel syndrome and GERD, you probably already on medication. So that explains that. You already on medication. That explains it. You show that you have it. Stuff like that. Migraines. With migraines, it's depending on how badly you get them and how often you get them. If you get migraines and you say, hey, I get migraines like once a month, you may end up with 10%. If you say migraines are, you get them weekly, you may end up with 30%. If you say that you get monthly, weekly migraines and you get those debilitating ones where you can't do nothing, you have to lay down and stuff like that. I was just like, hold on, I gotta stand up. Let me stand up for a bit. Sitting down is getting uncomfortable. You gotta love when you gotta love when you stand up and all you hear is the snap, crackle, and pop every single time. Sound like a damn Rice Krispies box when I'm fucking standing up. Um. Oh yeah. But yeah, that's what you have to keep in mind. That it's just like with the migraines, that's what it is. If you're getting them and you tell them you're getting migraines multiple times a month, and multiple times a month you're getting those that are like terrible ones, that gets you 50%. But if you're just getting migraines like once a month and it ain't that bad and it's just like you deal with it, you might end up with 10%. Sleep apnea, that one is simple because it's just like, hey, you got a CPAP machine or not? You got a sleep pack machine that you need, and you did the sleep study and they gave it to you and stuff like that, you end up with 50%. The musculoskeletal conditions, it depends on the severity of your movement, how much you move, where you move to, how much you can bend, how much you can reach, stuff like that. That depends on the percentage. So that's why it's just like, depending on what statements you made and how you went through the process is what gets you that percentage. So it's not best to look at it as just like, oh, I'm gonna get this. With the VA, nothing is fucking certain. It was just like, you can have everything. Like I said, you can have everything and you still be denied. But that's where you have to. That's where you have to pay attention to it. And it's just like, claim what you have, think of everything you have, and go through the process. Do your research and go through this documentation. Go through the Code of Federal Regulations, which I'll put this link in here. and just read through the process. Go through it. Read the documentation. Go find all the stuff that you have claims for. Find the documentation that you need to support these claims, because that's the stuff that's going to make you, it makes you or breaks you basically when it comes to filing for disability. Because like I said, you can have everything done and you still might get denied, or still might not be service connected, and then you got to go through the appeal process. So making sure that everything is right the first time saves you a lot of headache and a lot of heartache. But at the same time, file your stuff. Do not refile for it. Appeal it and fight that appeal, because remember, it goes off of your start date. So if you started today and it shit takes 2 years, you're getting back paid for 2 years. If you decide that you started today, the shit got denied, and then you decided next year from now you decided to refile again, you're going to start getting paid from that refile date, not from the other date. So that's something to also keep in mind, that people sometimes fail to acknowledge that. But like I said, Dash, you have your claims. You're also getting med boarded, so that's there. But that claim is going to be taken care of because of the med board. Whatever that claim is, that one will get you percentage. But then everything else is where you have to pay attention to, and it's basically off of what this says. So if you go through the CFR and you looked up all those you claimed, and you fit the description of everything at the highest amount, yeah, most likely you're going to end up with that 100%. But if you don't fit the description and you at the lowest part, or where, because like for some instances, they're just gonna say, yeah, it's service connected. And that's where also this comes in handy, because it's like, check all this shit, all of it, find everything. There's over 3,000 different claims that you can make for your VA disability. It's over 3,000 of them. Do they all fit you? No, but there's 3,000 of them. So depending on what you're dealing with, you have to ensure and make sure that you are actually filing it under the right diagnostic code to show this is what you're claiming, to see that it's actually a claim. So like shoulder replacement, that's code 5051. If you just put shoulder pain, they take it as shoulder pain. They don't know what the hell shoulder pain is. If you just put shoulder pain, what they're gonna do, they're gonna connect it, anything that they can, to try to make it into one rating. You might have different issues going on with your shoulder. So that's something that you got to keep in mind, and do all that stuff. Like all this stuff is there, and it's open information. All of it is open information for you to read, notate, take care of what you have to, and that gets you all the evaluation ratings that you need. You'll get all the information you need from there. Like I said, y'all, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We do this every Sunday, 12 noon. I know a lot of y'all probably watching football, or sports and stuff like that, but I just keep on saying, like, hey, taking one weekend, one Sunday, just tune into these workshops. Just ask any questions you may have. Will benefit you in the long run, where that football game is not going to be a concern when you have those extra benefits to work with. Shit, you might be able to afford to go to the game. Who knows? Um, but that's something to keep in mind when it comes to filing this disability, and going through these workshops, acknowledging them, finding the information, going through the right methods of doing it, so that way you are getting this information clearly from here. Like I said, I will provide you the stuff from .gov sites, or the actual regulation, or the information, so that way you can do your own research after that. I can lead you to the information. You do with it what you want. I don't want people over exaggerating and stuff like that. I was just like, hey, do people do it? Yes. Do people fight to get to 100% PNT? Yes. Some of them do it in a fraudulent manner. Some of them doing it the correct way with all the documentation. And all the stuff, the documentation that you have to provide for it. That evidence is the biggest thing. Like how I said, starting off with the requesting the military service records. This is what it is. That's what it basically is. And start off on the right foot by getting all the information you need. But let's see. Why is my internet crapping out, man? So hold on. You would think my thing isn't even connected or something, but it's connected. It's just not getting. My internet speed's slacking. Um, causing my thing to like buffer and stuff. So I need to Let me see why that is. Let me see something. I might have to. May lose this real quick, but we'll see. Think it's back. I'm not sure. Might have lost it out for a bit. Yeah, I kind of lost it real quick. Tried to make a couple of quick changes to see if I can get it up and running. But for some reason my internet is still very shoddy, which I'm not sure why it is. Because it shouldn't be. Should be processing it with no issue. It's dropping a lot of the frames, which I'll after this one I'll sit down and I'll probably look at it. Yeah, and that's the announcement for Cyberlink. If you have any of these, those are just referrals for people to use. Basically, the Microsoft application suite, 3 months free. You got your Cyberlink if you do any kind of editing, photo editing, video editing, stuff like that. It's way cheaper than the Adobe, and you can use that also as a resource. And I just have my link there for people to be able to use as an affiliate. If you do end up purchasing it, I do get slight commission from it, so I appreciate it if you do. The same way, just liking the stream, sharing the stream, subscribing to the channel helps the channel grow and helps reach more veterans, so that veterans are able to understand and get this information to help benefit them, their families, and their dependents. But like I said, most of this stuff is there. It's out in the open, y'all. It's just people making sure to look for the information, gain the information, gather the information, and do it that way, so that way everyone has the ability to file the disability claims in a correct manner. Requesting the service records is the most important thing. That's what people need to make sure that they're doing. They need to understand that. Um, Acknowledging that and having your records, going through them with a fine, like page by page, line by line, notating all the issues you have, any discrepancies, any issues you dealt with. Some issues you probably dealt with and don't even remember dealing with, or don't remember getting injured and stuff like that. That is still a claim. Because the thing is what you want to do is you want to go ahead and make sure everything that you have or dealt with while in service is service connected. So you don't have to do the legwork after the fact. This is the stuff that you want to keep all in hand, all the stuff there in writing, so that way you have all the availability to you and the resources available to you. So if you have anything like, hey, I sprained my ankle, wasn't that bad, but that was like in 2016 or 2012 or whenever, 5 years ago, whenever it was that you served and you had that thing, claim sprained ankle, claimed ankle injury, stuff like that. The thing is the service connected, it's there. As you keep on getting older and time passes, now you can file for an increase. So over time, you can file for an increase. Like, hey, you may not be at 100% at the start, or may not need to get to 100%. You may be getting compensated for certain things. But as you get older, some of the stuff is going to develop that you didn't even think was there or didn't even realize was there. And that's going to be a major factor when it comes to it. So that's something you have to acknowledge and pay attention to. Those are the things that will change over time. But if you already have a service connected at the beginning, when it happened going through, you don't have to worry about it. It's not something you have to try to visualize. It's not something you have to try to incorporate. It's something that's already there. Now it's just making sure to build up on it and make it a larger claim or increasing the claim. But we're gonna end it on that note, y'all. Yeah, my shit popping like crazy. We're gonna end it out on that note. Appreciate everybody that tunes in as always. Make sure, like I said, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, push this out to other veterans if they have any questions, or if you have any other questions, make sure you leave them in the comments of this video. Make sure you're leaving that information so that way I know how I can better assist veterans, what information they need, or what I need to probably look into a bit further to educate myself on, to be able to educate others, so that way I can point you to the right direction when it comes to these resources. Yeah, because I'm gonna have to do some messing around with my internet, because clearly not doing well, even though I should be doing well, but we'll see. I appreciate y'all. As always, make sure to take care of one another, look out for one another, love one another, be good to one another, and stay marvelous the whole time while doing it. I'm just Cruz here with your Sunday Veterans Workshops. We'll be back next Sunday. We'll do a pop-up one. We're going to start doing some more pop-up ones throughout the week. Our shorts are coming out every Wednesday, and we will start trying to produce more videos as time is available for us to do that. So appreciate y'all. Y'all take care. I will see y'all next week. Cruz signing out. Peace.